The song is called The Holy City, and I learned it by listening to a carpenter in a church that I attended 40 years ago, and it was his song. And I fell in love with this song, but I could never do it there at that church because it was his song. And so it's the Lord's song.
Amen.
Last night as I lay sleeping, there came a dream so fair. I stood in old Jerusalem, beside the temple there. I heard the children singing, and ever as they sang, methought the voice of angels from heaven answered rang. Methought the voice of angels from heaven answered rang. And then methought my dream was changed, the streets no longer rang. Hushed were the glad hosannas, the little children sang. The sun grew dark with mystery, the morn was cold and chill, as the shadow of a cross arose upon a lonely hill, as the shadow of a cross arose upon a holy hill. And once again the scene was changed, new earth there seemed to be. I saw the holy city beside the rock unseen. The light of God was on its streets, the gates were open wide, and all who
everybody who went. I had the wonderful opportunity yesterday. Thank you, Dogwood. There we go. I wondered if I was going to have to prompt. But there was a lot of wood going on up in Charlotte yesterday.
I had to do it, sorry.
I know, I'm waiting. I'm going to make you do it. It's good when someone just goes right on in. But by the end of the day, that's what we did when we filled up a box and we had to put it on the conveyor line to go on out. But that is a very eye-opening experience. I told Jessica, I said that it was just, I've never been in a more chaotic and organized place at the same time. I can guarantee you they had about at least 40 some forklifts going around about us the whole time, and it looked like they were doing synchronized swimming or ballet or something, but they weren't stopping or they just kept moving around. And what was really awesome, and there's Amy Prince in here this morning. She's in the nursery. So when it's out, y'all go and thank Miss Amy for heading that up. I want to thank she come up with the idea, got the spots for us, and by the end of the day, she says, I'm done leading. I'm done. We got into the bus to go home. She said, I'm not making a decision where we eat. I'm just not doing it. But she did a wonderful job, and just thank her for her efforts in making that. And we had 2 college kids, Rebecca and Sean, that they were willing to drive. Their original plan was for them to drive from their campuses and meet us in Charlotte. They come and met us here and rode with us.
Amen.
And I've heard several of our youth talking about they want to eventually do the next step and actually train to be on the delivery teams.
Wow.
And deliver them.
I like it.
And so hopefully we will be able to say we have members of our congregation that have went from buying the actual presents in the box to going through the whole process to see that those gifts actually hand-delivered.
Amen.
So I call that, I mean, it's a goal that can happen, but I would call that a God-sized goal.
Amen.
There's things that's got to fall in place, but we limit our God when we say, well, that's going to be a little bit hard, that's going to be something we don't need to suggest. John?
I'm just going to say one thing. We packed out 45,000 boxes in that one distribution center yesterday. Every single one of those boxes had to be circled through, and anything pertaining to Jesus Christ had to be removed. So it was, to me, that was hard. You can talk about God, but you can't talk about Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
So, that was a lot. That was a lot of boxes. I think we did about 40,000.
Well, let me add a little bit of light to that. We had a very special opportunity yesterday. We packed special country boxes, or special situation boxes. And even our leaders, and I'm a little concerned about this, we're going to try to be as vague as we can because we're broadcasting right now. They asked us not to post on Facebook that the locations that they were going. But these are going to sensitive locations in our world. That when they're inspected, the authorities can stop the shipment by just the key words of Jesus.
Yeah.
So to get the material in the country, now the stuff that's passed out here and in nations that freely accept Christianity, there are tracts, but we had the opportunity, they'll be packing these certain boxes till next Tuesday. It's coming Tuesday. These boxes have to pass inspections of governments that do not approve of Christianity. But the thing is, those boxes are also accompanied by delivery teams. And when when those delivery teams get in those places and they distribute the boxes, they present the gospel of Jesus Christ in person. And even the gentleman that was over our table, I asked him about that. He said, you know, it's one part of it is for it to be able to pass inspection to get into the country. But these are going to places where if these people were even found, if these little children were even found with something with Jesus' name on it, they could be killed.
Yeah.
Wow.
They would be killed.
You know, that's hard to wrap our minds around in free America. It's hard to wrap our minds around where we can sit there and we can speak our mind freely. We can do whatever we want to in this nation freely. And we should be, and this is the key word for today, thankful that we have someone standing out there in the foyer just because there's crazy people in the world.
Yeah.
But we don't have to be in a bunker right now hiding sick and worried about somebody from our government coming and killing us for who we believe in. It's amazing, but it's also amazing that we have an organization like Samaritan First, Operation Richardson, that they find a way to get in, to get their foot in the door. Hey, yeah, we have to do some things that we have to comply to certain regulations, but we're getting the word out there. That was my concern. I'm like, man.
Well, Brandon, we have a ministry Don and I support in Pakistan, and Preacher Akbar has a school and a church that teaches Muslim children to speak English, and they're winning them left and right for Jesus Christ. And I know their life's in danger all the time. They've been threatened so many times, but God somehow keeps His arm around them and protects them.
Amen.
Tell them they're praying. They're praying for them.
It's an amazing thing. And they split us up. We had 18. Remember Morgan, she was sick yesterday morning and wasn't able to be with us. So her and Miss Carla had to stay at home. And also remember Brother Ron, Christina texted me this morning. And he was spiking cold yesterday, and he pushed through it to get us down there safe and back safe. And she took him to doctor's care this morning, sick. So keep them in your prayers.
I'm sorry. They were leaving for church, and Ava got sick. He asked us to please remember him, and I failed to do that. I'm sorry.
It's so easy for our minds to slip. But just thank you. Thank you for being a church that supports,
Amen.
reaching out. And Preacher Jimmy Dart said we're going to focus our efforts greater on that next year. We're going to probably rearrange how we're going to do it, and kind of gear it towards, because it's a well-worked ministry.
Amen.
And we're also going to continue ministry here. We've got children all over the world. We've got children within earshot of this place.
Come on, Richard.
Not just, if we went outside and hollered, they probably could hear us playing in the yard. We've got a ministry right here. And we're called to minister in Jerusalem, Judea, and Samaria, and the other most parts of the world. We're not told to pick one. We're told to do it. If you have your scriptures this morning, turn with us to Acts chapter 16, starting in verse 20. Let's do verse 20. No, verse 22. We want to speak on this title this morning. 3 things Paul and Silas were thankful for. And this is a very familiar scripture to us as Bible readers. We've read this so many times. I believe I've already heard Jimmy preach on this message, this scripture, in the short time that I've been with you. I mean, I won't even list the number of times I've heard it preached on in my Christian life, but As I encourage you every time we come to familiar scripture, don't just turn it off.
Amen, preacher.
Because there's always something new for you to see. And I might not tell you anything new. Sometimes Jessica tells me stuff that's not new to me, but she has to remind me. So every once in a while, it's just, the Lord has to remind us. If you found your place and you're able, would you please stand in reverence to read God's holy word? Acts chapter 16, we're going to pick up reading verse 22. And the multitude rose together against them, and the magistrates rent off their clothes and commanded to beat them. And when they had laid many stripes upon them, they cast them into the prison, charging the jailer to keep them safely, who having received such a charge, thrust them into the inner prison, and made their feet fast in the stocks. And at midnight Paul and Silas prayed, and sang praises unto God for the prisoners, and the prisoners heard them. And suddenly there was a great earthquake, so that the foundations of the prison were shaken, and immediately all the doors were open, and everyone's bands were loosed. And the keeper of the prison, awakening out of his sleep, and seeing the prison doors open, he drew out his sword and would have killed himself, supposing the prisoners had been fled. But Paul cried with a loud voice, saying, Do thyself no harm, for we are all here. And he sprang for a light. He called for a light, and he sprang in and came trembling and fell before Paul and Silas, and brought them out and said, Sirs, what must I do to be saved? And they said, Believe in the Lord Jesus Christ, and thou shalt be saved, and thy house. And they spake unto him the words of the Lord, and all that were in his house. And he took them the same hour of the night, and washed their stripes, and was baptized, he and all his straightway. And when he had brought them into his house, he set meat before them, and rejoiced, believing in God with all his house.
Amen.
Let us pray. Lord, I thank you so much for, Lord, I thank you for what I was allowed to experience yesterday. Lord, I thank you so much for this church body who comes together. Lord, we put your word out there. And I'm thankful for those who, even though there's hurdles and there's obstacles that way, they're engineered, they're creative enough, inspired by you to get the word at any cost. Lord, this morning we come and we're right on the very brink of a holiday. As it was already mentioned in our Sunday school class this morning, gets overlooked. Because it's not me-centered. To be thankful, you have to be thankful for something other besides you. Lord, I pray this week we spark in ourselves, in our mind, you spark to realize that we're not controlled, we're not governed by ourselves. Everything we have, everything we'll go home and enjoy today for lunch, the vehicle that we drive, the home that we'll sleep in tonight, everything that we have is a blessing from you. Lord, tonight, this morning, we want to look at these scriptures. Lord, I pray you would just hide me behind your cross. Lord, as John would say, I must decrease so you may increase. Lord, I pray they don't even remember we preached this morning. Lord, let us go out and be thankful for the one who did preach, the Holy Spirit. Lord, we give you all honor, glory, and praise. That's the we pray. Amen. Another quick thing I want to share with you real quick is I got a little sidetracked talking about the Operation Christmas Child. We went in there and it's just huge. I've got a picture of the kind of the floor plan, and it's just a huge warehouse. And they split us up. We had 18 from Dogwood go. They split us up in groups of 9 so we could get on the table, and they brought in groups of 3 to mingle in with us. And I got a partner named Mr. Malcolm. He was 84 years old. And when he'd get done with the box, I encouraged him, he had to woo like Tina. And he tried his best, he goes, woo. But he leaned over to me, he said, it's amazing how everything's moving so smooth. And we were sitting there talking, and both of us figured out why people, you can throw people into a warehouse, and the majority of them have never done it before, have them watch a 5-minute video, get in there and start processing this stuff, and it moves like I've never seen anything in production or anything move as smooth as this was moving yesterday. And we finally realized, and this is just a little nugget before we get into the sermon. As many times as we say it, we give it lip service, we're part of the body of Christ. And then we don't have to know each other on a first-name basis for our Lord and Savior to put us in orchestra together. When we work in concert together, when God's people get in one accord and come together for one, the problem is we lose sight of that. We're the body of Christ because we're stuck in the local body oftentimes. And some of us don't want to do it. To be honest with you. So many times the local body has to have some fine tuning. But I'm thankful. When we go to heaven, we're not just going to sit up on a cloud and just chill out.
Amen.
We're going to have some things to do. And it gives me confidence yesterday seeing that when we get to heaven, everybody's going to be doing what they need to do and how they need to do it. Because we're going to have perfect mind, perfect body. There was little hiccups yesterday. Everybody makes mistakes. But that was just a little glimpse. Hey, before second shift come on, as Johnny gave you the number, 44,500 boxes at 2 o'clock was announced that we'd already loaded on trucks.
Wow.
Before second shift, they were still working. They were going to work till 10:30 that night. That's a lot of stuff, a lot of going. I'm trying not to make this a sermon, but it's just an experience, and I hope we have to rent buses to take the crowd next year.
Amen.
But let's look at our scripture this morning. Paul and Silas gone in prison. Midnight prayer meeting in prison. I've heard it called that. We look and we see, what were they in prison for? Well, you go further up, they're going through the city of Macedonia, they're preaching, witnessing, leading people to Christ. And there's a woman with a spirit of discernment, deviation, whatever you want to call it. But it wasn't the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
You ever been, and I'm telling you, I love testimony. I'm looking forward to Wednesday night. Y'all seriously, y'all come. I know it's the Wednesday night before Thanksgiving, and turkey's got to be basted and all that stuff. And you gotta sharpen your can opener for the cranberry and all that good stuff. But come Wednesday night and have something on your mind that you're thankful for to share.
Yes, preacher, yes.
Come and share that. But we look at this scripture and we see that I've lost my place again. I wish Tina was in here because we talked about that on the bus too. But I love getting in a testimony service.
I did too, brother.
Love it. I remember growing up, sometimes we met in the sanctuary before we broke off into Sunday school. And some mornings the Spirit would just fall so heavy at opening hymn. Somebody start testing. And we wouldn't make it to Sunday school, and we wouldn't even make it to preach. Because the Holy Spirit would just sit down, and God's people would open their mouths and let God preach through them. Let the praise flow. But I've also, and I'm telling you, I walked out of service and I said, if the Lord would have showed up anymore, we'd have had to go and stand on the outside because we couldn't be in there with him.
Come on, preacher.
But I've also been in services like that, and someone speak up that as soon as they open their mouth, you can tell the spirit they're speaking with isn't the spirit that's moving the service.
Come on,
Yeah.
And that's what this woman was. She was saying the right things, but the spirit in her was not the right spirit. And it was not helping the ministry of these men going and sharing Christ. It was hindering. And this woman was also profitable to her masters.
Come on now.
It's a bad thing when someone's not, and again, I'll try not to get into Deuteronomy. We've already talked about this in Deuteronomy. Right now, today, we have more slaves in this world than we've ever had in human history.
Come on. That's true.
Slavery is not a past thing. It's a right now thing. But this woman was a slave, not only to a demonic spirit, but that she was a slave to men who used her for what was going on in her life, for the problems she had. And Paul, being grieved in his spirit, as the scripture said, turned and rebuked the spirit in Jesus' name, and that spirit left that woman immediately. Well, that hurt. It freed the woman, but it hurt her master's pocketbook.
Come on now, brother.
You want to get people mad? Mess with their pocketbook.
Sure do. Tell the truth, preacher.
And they drug them down, and the rulers of the synagogue and the magistrates, and they just run. And you know anything about Bible history that you are reading further on up in the chapter, they missed a key issue because they never asked them if they were Roman citizens. They were so irate, they beat these men, slung them in prison. And then they charged the jailer and said, listen, if they escape, it's your head. So he put them even further in the prison. And this weren't 3 hots in a car. It was nasty, vile mess. They didn't have no restroom. Where you were was your restroom. I'm trying not to be too graphic here.
Come on.
But this is where it is, and we paint this picture, and it's at night, it's pitch black, they don't have any light. And they still sing praise.
Amen.
Well, glory.
I drive when it rains. I was pushing the mail cart. That's another thing I gripe about. Because for some reason, they had someone that used to do the mail. They didn't want to do the mail anymore. So they dumped the car department. So I do the mail now. And I get, sometimes, some mornings, I'll be honest with you, I'm trying to, I know I'm standing up here and I'm preaching to you this morning, but I can't be too spiritual this morning.
Come on.
Sometimes I sit there and some mornings I grab the mail bins and I just start thinking, this is below me.
Come on now, preacher.
And I'm sitting there and I'm sorting that mail, and I'm walking down the hall with the mail thing, and people say, oh, hey, Mr. Mailman.
Go ahead, preacher.
I said, the only reason I'm doing this is because someone it ain't no business. Hey, if it weren't for my mom and my daddy kicking me in the behind, I wouldn't have a college degree. I'm just be honest with you.
Come on.
But I'm sitting there, I'm like, it's just because someone that don't have a college degree and got enough pull in this organization, they don't have to do this no more.
Come on.
And then when it rains, I get mad because I got to push the cart in the rain across things. Nobody wants wet mail, so you got to cover it up. So I'm sitting there in the foyer. This is my therapy session. So I'm covering the mail up with the tarp, and the lady comes in and she says, man, it sure is a crummy day out there. And I'm like, yeah, I'm kind of, And I'm sitting there and I'm walking in the rain, and the Lord says, at least you can see it.
Well, glory. Come on, preacher.
Because, when I was born, they found out when I was in kindergarten that I was legally blind. I couldn't even see the wall where the E was, much less the E. I remember my mom has told me several times she loaded me in the car when I had my glasses. And I'm riding in the back seat of the car going home, and I say, Mama, there really is leaves on the trees.
Oh, glory.
God blessed me being a family. They could put something in my eyes where I could see.
Yeah, amen.
He said, you're working a job. Most people don't work a job. And you're walking in the rain right now, but you're going to a heated building where you get to do your job. You don't have to be in the ditch like my grandfather and my dad. You don't have to be out in the hot field.
Come on.
And I went from being a grumbling, carnal, miserable person. When I got to the administrative mailroom, I was a different man.
Well, glory.
Because I was actually getting to see, I was having one day, on a rainy day, I started to see what Paul and Silas could praise about in the prison. First thing they looked at, and we already kind of took what God had done. I mean, they're sitting there and they're strapped with the chains and they're bound and they can't move. They can't even scratch their nose. Have you ever noticed your nose itch? And when you can scratch it, no, because we automatically scratch it. As soon as we get that little sensation, our brain tells our hand to scratch it. But you get it where your hand is tied up. And you can't move. And that nose itch becomes a big problem on you. Remember when Jessica first got married? She still liked to cuddle. Her love, her newlywed love outpowered her need not to have her ears snored into is what it was. She'd sit there and she'd fall asleep on my arm. I couldn't move my arm. And I can't remember why I couldn't do this hand. I don't know what it was, but I remember laying in bed one night and both of my hands were incapacitated. And I would have paid anybody any amount of money if they'd come and scratch my nose. Anything. But we never notice what we have until we don't have it anymore. And I've lived a life that, it's not been a perfect, no problem life. But Miss Johnny informed me yesterday. We were sitting there just talking at breakfast, and she goes, you have so many good memories with your family. I do. I've got a rich family history that many people don't have. And I look at it because I've lived it, and I just look at that as that standard. I look at my job where I get to sit and I gripe about this and I gripe about that. But I've put it to where that's the standard. That's the bare minimum. That's what's expected. No, that's something I'm given without even being worthy of it. We get up every morning and we go about our day and we get in our vehicles and we go and we live like that's what we're owed. That's the bare minimum. If nothing was, that's what we get. But no, God gave us all that.
Yes,
and they're sitting there and they're strapped down. They can't move. They can't even scratch their nose. And I imagine Paul and Silas. Silas says, man, Paul, we're in a rough spot. I can just imagine what Paul was. And they're probably, I'm telling you, they're human. They were probably miserable. They've been beaten to death, half to death, and they sit there and they're chained up. And then Silas is kind of sitting over there talking. I'm just a picture thinker. And he's like, and it's so dark in here, Paul, I can't even see. And then all of a sudden, something sparks in Paul's mind. See, I remember a time I couldn't see.
right.
I was on my way to Damascus. And there was a light that shined so bright, it blinded my eyes. And for 3 days, I could not see. And I'm sitting, and he's sitting there, and he's chained up in that prison. He starts talking about it. And God come and He talked to me when all He could have done, He could have easily struck me dead right there on the road and stopped me from going to kill His people. But no, He decided, no, I'm not going to stop you. I'm going to use you to glorify me. You're going to be another apostle when you weren't even one of my disciples. And I'm going to let you, I'm going to turn you one of the greatest missionaries the world has ever seen.
Yes.
Right.
I'm going to use you. And then God saw fit. He sent a man that I didn't even know called Ananias. That didn't want to go because he knew me. To touch me and give me my sight back. So, Silas, we might be in this dark prison. But we're going to see again.
Yes.
The sun's going to rise one more time. And if they cut our heads off in the morning, we'll die here, but we'll be there. And I'm getting into another point. But we're talking right now about what God has done.
Yeah.
And Paul's sitting there, and I can just imagine him thinking and telling Silas, and Silas probably done heard it many times. I'm here because of what Christ done
Yes.
on Calvary.
Yes.
I'm here because, and I'm talking about Brandon right now.
Yeah.
I'm not saying Paul right now. Paul can say the same thing. I'm here this morning because God seemed fit at eternity past.
Yeah.
Glory to God.
There's going to be a little boy born on the backside of a little small 1-2 stoplight town in Angel.
Uh-huh.
And I'm going to find him. And I'm going to make myself available. And that's going to have to come 2,000 years before he's even born. I'm going to have to robe myself in flesh, go and live a perfect, sinless life, and die a gruesome death so I can restore him unto me. And that's your story too.
Yes.
And if there's nothing, if we don't have 4 or 5 figures in the bank account, in the savings account, if we don't have the brand new vehicle, if we don't have this or that, it don't matter what it is. What the world tells you need to have to be at the base level of being thankful. We have the opportunity to know our God personally. And He gives us salvation. And He has already done the work. I just imagine what Paul said to the jailer when he comes and says, what must I do to be saved? Nothing. It's already done. All you have to do is accept it. We're thankful for what God has done. We need to be thankful for what God is doing.
Yeah.
Reading the scriptures, it talks, they're sitting there and prayer meetings just getting warmed up good. Brother Eddie, every prayer meeting's good with some singing, right?
Yeah.
And they start singing. And they're sitting in that prison, and Scripture records that the other prisoners heard.
Yeah, it is.
They're talking about what God did in the past. And God's moving in the hearts and the minds of those other prisoners right there so much that when they had a chance at freedom, I'd rather be in jail with Christ than be free without Him.
Well, amen.
Those prisoners didn't move. That prison guard jumped in, wanting to know what is going on here. God's constantly moving. Those days that we're grumbling and we're distressed and we're depressed and all these other things that I could rhyme if I had a better vocabulary. God, even though we don't see Him move, His word says He works all things.
Yes, He does.
For our good.
Yes.
He doesn't say He works all good things.
No.
No.
He says He works every single thing for our good. It might hurt. Living hurts. Life hurts. Loss makes us better.
Amen.
If it doesn't make you bitter, it will make you better.
Yes, it will.
Praise the Lord.
And I share with you in this pulpit, I share with Brother Anthony's class just last Sunday. Y'all know what me and Jessica went through a year and a half ago. 2 years. You know what we went through. Y'all were with us. I won't go in every single detail. Losing Aiden was probably the most painful thing that's ever happened in my life so far. I'm sure there'll probably be things that might equate to it coming up. We got one to raise now. I've never checked on to make sure something was alive so much in my life. Every time I walk by the crib at night, I'm sticking my finger down there, poking him or something. The loss of our first boy almost devastated me. You know those conversations I tell you about when Satan just comes and he likes to sit down and start talking?
He does.
I confess to you from right here this morning. There's many of those conversations were the subject of resigning from, not just resigning from the pasture of Dogwood Hill, but walking away from the ministry entirely. Was strong on the table. God let your son die. With no explanation. The doctor didn't even say what it was. It just told you the heart stopped. Now you might could attribute that to something medical if you had an explanation, but the heart just stopped. It was a dark time in Brandon's life.
I believe that.
But also, I shared this last Sunday, I shared it with you. Since then, I've learned many things about ministry to people with a hurt.
Amen.
That's it, Lord.
Never tell somebody you know what they're going through. Because you don't.
Right.
Just be there for them. Love on them. Care for them. And it has opened me up. And in the past year, I've had 3 opportunities to talk with somebody who does not know a man named Jesus.
Come on.
We walked a Roman road. We've also walked the road to Conway Medical Center to the crying wife. The doctor who says the heart's not beating. The darkest thing I've ever had to face. And I used that testimony just in the first year after it happened. Lead people to the name of Jesus.
Yes.
I'll miss my son until I see him in heaven.
Yes.
I miss him every day. But because of what God allowed me and his mother to go through, 3 other people
Glory.
who get to see him,
Amen.
get to see God the Father. It's worth it.
Praise.
It's worth it. And God was doing that when I didn't even know what was going on. And we're thankful for what he's done. We're thankful for what he's doing, even if we don't know exactly what's going on. We're thankful for what he's going to do.
Yes.
Because this isn't it.
No.
This isn't it at all. This wasn't it for that jailer either.
No. Amen.
It's amazing when the Spirit of God gets in somebody, they immediately become a minister. You say, well, I'm a Christian. I'm not. Yes, you are.
Come on.
If you've been saved and given your life to Jesus Christ, you are a minister of the gospel. You might not be an ordained preacher or pastor, but you are a minister of the gospel. And as soon as they receive, that jailer received Jesus Christ, he automatically began to minister. It says he brought them in and he wiped their stripes. He cleaned them. He gave them food. He sat them down at his house and he spread the table. We're called to minister everywhere we go. Thursday, fancy tablecloths be pulled out. Be put on the big dining room table that never gets used throughout the rest of the year, just to catch all. I remember we used to have to go over to Grandma's house and help her clean it, get stuff off of it the day before. But the food will be just insane. Me and Richardson will try to refrain from preaching on gluttony next Sunday. We have a mote in our eye, I guarantee you. But we will sit down and we will break bread with our family and our friends. And we will enjoy it. We will have time. We will see people through this upcoming, not just on Thanksgiving, but through this upcoming holiday season. We haven't seen since last time. And we'll enjoy their company, and we'll enjoy the festivities. There's going to be one day where we sit at a really, 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 really big table. And we'll be dressed in our wedding clothes. And Christ will come. And we won't have to worry about aches and the pain. I joked with the crowd last night on the way back. I said I might actually have to use the handrail to get up into the pulpit this morning, because I'm telling you, I stood up at the restaurant, and after standing on your feet at an assembly line on concrete for how many hours? 6 hours. Christina, she stood up first and said, "Brandon, wait till you stand up." And I was like, oh. And I tell you, from your foot all the way up to your neck, every single one of every joint that moves. Then you get to see the college and the youth kids get up, they just, oh.
There you go, brother. There you go, Chris.
We're going to be one day when we don't have to worry about AIDS and pain. And we're going to be working for a Savior with perfect minds and perfect bodies, doing His very will, and we'll do His will perfectly, because we'll be equipped to do it. And the Bible says He will hurry Himself. He will make preparation for us. And He will serve us. And we will rejoice in His presence forever and ever. We have so many things to be thankful for. There's not a single part of your life, past, present, future, that you cannot be thankful for. Wednesday night should be a 3-hour service. And we all get out here and start telling what we're thankful for. This morning, you might be here, and we do every service. You don't know this man named Jesus. You don't really understand. You think that's a round boy up there, out of his mind. He's just a pie in the sky person. Everything's just rainbows and everything for him. No, it's not. But I know a man named Jesus.
Yes.
And in my darkest hour, where my wife, the things I've done in my life, that if my wife knew completely what I've done, she wouldn't want to have nothing to do with me. He loved me.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, He does.
Before I even had a chance to fail him. And with him knowing that I would fail him, He died for me.
Glory to God.
He died for you. He calls us to live a life for Him. You know that question of what's a Christian? When you stand up before a classroom of elementary school kids, that question gets a lot harder than what you think.
Yes, it does, preacher.
Because it's not somebody who just says, I go to church and I profess this. A Christian is someone who lives for Christ.
Go ahead.
Right.
Whose Christ lives through it. It's not just a good person. It's not by somebody who prayed a prayer one time. It's not somebody who got up here in this baptistry and got wet one time.
Come on.
Somebody who dies to themselves daily.
Sir, go ahead, preacher.
We're giving you this invitation this morning. First, church people, you might be like me, sitting in that foyer of the hospital, groaning, aggravated with everything that life's thrown your way. It's time to get back to being thankful for what God's given you.
Yes, yes.
Lost friend, you don't know this man named you.
Come on.
We're not offering you a feel-good prayer.
Go.
We're not offering you some religious cure-all. That's the best phrase that I can give you. What we had when we did our Not a Fantasy. Come and die. Come and die to yourself. Come and die to your past. Come and die to the old you. And then Christ lives for you. That's salvation. It's not turning over to religion. It's not your fire insurance policy. It's not just praying a prayer so Mom will leave me alone. It's picking up the cross and following me. Oh, it sounds weird. It sounds hectic. It sounds like a lot. It's worth it.
Amen.
Amen.
It's worth every
Amen,
single
preacher.
thing. Well, Eddie, Gail, again, I want to express, again, my thankfulness, our gratitude for allowing us to experience what we experienced yesterday at Operation History. We live in a lost and dying world that needs Christ. We're not going to reach them if we don't have the right perspective of Him.
Amen. That's true, preacher.
I honestly believe, and I'm still trying to get there myself, if we would truly get the sense of the level of thanksgiving we need to have for Jesus Christ being who He says He is, Brother Stephen's prayer request will go no more because we won't be able to shut our mouths about who Jesus is.
Amen.
We wouldn't be able to keep it in, we wouldn't be able to swallow it down. It would find its way into every single conversation.
Yes.
No matter what we're talking about, band, sports, work, anything. Christ will find a way into the conversation. This altar's open. Jimmy, you want to come stand there? Whatever the Lord's put on your heart, don't quench the Spirit.
Come on.
You tell the Spirit no, you're quenching.
Go ahead.
What's your number, brother?
285. Make 285.